It's the Michael. It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Tennessee bonus hour of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. It is a delight, as always, to welcome to our microphones here in studio, downtown Nashville, the original All-Star panelist, my friend for over 30 years, Crom Carmichael. Welcome, Crom.
Michael, greetings, kind sir. I was at a dinner last night, and one guy there, who I've known a long time, introduced me to the other folks there as his old friend. I said, you know, I really wish you'd come up with a better way of expressing what you're trying to say. So I like the way you do it.
Yes. Yes.
My friend of over 30 years rather than my old friend.
I want to say something about people who've been around Nashville for a while. And I'm going to say something about another radio station in town.
Oh.
99.7 WTN.
Yes.
Which is owned by Cumulus Broadcasting. And we've been very friendly. I appeared on that program many times over the past decade and a half as a guest. And they have
Teddy Bart actually at one point had his roundtable was on that.
You were on.
I think so.
You were well for a long time.
I think it was.
No, it was 99.7.
Well, he was on a lot of different stations, but I think 99.7 was one of those stops.
Yeah, well, it was the next to the last stop.
Okay,
for Teddy Bart.
Okay.
When I moved here to Nashville,
all right,
in 1991.
Okay.
And I was listening to the Teddy Bart Roundtable on 99.7 WTN. Before this was.
Oh, okay. Well, then
you were there on the roundtable.
Okay.
That's how I got to know you.
Okay.
Because you were a voice of sanity on the roundtable, and called you up. We had went to barbecue lunch, and the rest, as they say, is history in terms of our being friends. But and they have been purchased by Cumulus, which is the big broadcaster.
Well, they've been owned by Cumulus for quite some time. Have they not?
Well, they were purchased by Cumulus after the Teddy Bart Roundtable.
Right.
Yeah, in the early.
Right.
In the mid 1990s.
Yeah. So it's been a while. Yeah.
So it's been a long time. It's been about 30 years that they've owned it, and they have developed an excellent live and local conservative news talk station. There's some greats there. Our friend Steve Gill used to be there. The late, great Phil Valentine was there. There was a period of time when the morning show was Ralph Bristol, as you may recall.
Oh, boy, you're going back a long time.
Well, Ralph, who sounded like Paul Harvey, the voice of God, you know. And so I was often on Ralph's show. And right now they have a lineup that, of course, when Phil Valentine passed away, that was very terrible. But they've had an interesting lineup there since. Our friend Dan Mandis is the morning guy, followed by relatively newer Chris Hand, and then Matt Murphy has been the midday guy, and Brian Wilson.
Right, and Matt's moving to the late afternoon slot.
Matt is moving. Brian is retiring.
Right. From
everyday broadcasting, an excellent 50-year career in broadcasting, and a good friend of our program. And so Brian will be retiring, and Matt is moving up to the drive time. They brought a new guy in from somewhere else for the afternoon, but they made a very bad decision.
Uh-oh.
Very, very bad.
Okay.
For 20 years, Johnny B has been the producer and sidekick to the late Phil Valentine,
and stayed on with the station after that.
Yeah, and
he and Phil were attached at the hip. They were great. They were a wonderful team.
A great team.
Yeah.
And so Johnny B has been at WTN for 20 years. He was in kind of music radio for years before that. Right. He's a musician.
Yeah.
And very well regarded, well respected broadcaster in Middle Tennessee. And he's been the morning producer for the Dan Mandis show.
Okay.
For the morning show.
Okay.
Which is 5A to 9A, Monday through Friday, for many, many years. since the passing of Phil Valentine a couple of years ago.
Right.
On Tuesday morning, they made an announcement. Johnny B's no longer with WTN.
Oh my!
And but their loss. I'm just going to say this because I've reached out to Johnny B.
Oh.
Their loss could be our gain.
Oh, okay.
Because Johnny B is a remarkable talent.
Mm-hmm.
He understands Nashville and a great broadcaster. And I think Johnny B probably aligns more with the America First agenda of the John Fredericks Radio Network, which I'm a part here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to have Johnny B on the program.
Well, good.
And we look forward to talking to him.
Good.
And there might be.
I've recognized his voice for years and years.
Doesn't he have a great radio voice?
Oh yeah, but I'm not sure if I walked past him. I can't remember if I've met Johnny B or not. I don't think I have. And if I have, it was in a large setting for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I've met Johnny B.
That type of thing.
And really a great guy.
But great. Well, his
great broadcaster.
Yeah, and he brings a very interesting perspective to. And I'm not going to. I mean, I just remember listening. I said, "Well, it didn't matter what the particular issue was. He would bring a perspective on different issues, and I'd
Sure.
say, well, that's an interesting way of looking. I'd not thought about looking
You
at
and
it that
I-
way. So I like that.
You and I are political geeks.
Yeah, well,
But Johnny is interested in politics, but he's a real music guy.
well, yeah. He's
culture
also
guy.
he brings a culture. He brings a thinking about culture. If it's not the opposite, but it comes at it from a different direction, and I think it's interesting. So
Speaking of culture,
yeah,
want to make you pointed this out, and I think it was well of you to point out. I need to revise and extend my comments about TikTok and the law on TikTok. I went to our friends at Grok,
okay,
the AI service provided on X by Elon Musk,
okay,
asking for the federal law in question, known as the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, has this. The law mandates that ByteDance, that TikTok's Chinese parent company, must sell TikTok to a non-Chinese company within 270 days of the law being signed by President Biden.
right.
He signed it in April, and so I think it's like January 12th.
Oh,
January
the timeline is 19th.
There's an option. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Right. In the law, in
Yeah.
the statute.
I'm about to tell you what that
Okay.
option is.
All right. Okay.
It's called the extension clause.
Ah.
There's an option for a 90-day extension if the president determines that ByteDance has made significant progress toward the sale. This could. Oh no, this is already. This apparently has already been exercised.
No, I'm not. If it's 270 days plus 90.
Yeah, you're
Because
correct.
270
That would
plus
be April.
90 would be essentially a year.
So I think you're
So
right.
they have. All right.
So the deadline is, you're correct, is January 19th.
Yeah, but the statute it wasn't a ban. It was a ban if they didn't sell. So in other words, it had a penalty for not selling, and I think the Supreme Court will. I mean, the question is, are you siding with the Supreme Court, whether or not it's siding with China, having a constitutional right to own TikTok, and I don't think that China has a constitutional right.
I don't. I agree with you.
To own TikTok.
So I think you're right. I think the timing of this is the 270 days in the act are up on January 19th.
And then the 270 kicks in.
The president then can extend it for 90 days.
Right.
Right. Now the president on the 19th is Biden. The president on the 20th is Trump.
Yeah, but the law has been passed and the law has been signed.
Correct.
So Trump would have to go back to Congress to get that law changed. So the only thing that Trump will have is whether or not he extends the 90 days or not.
Yeah.
He can't nullify the law.
No, I don't think he intends to.
Well, no, but it doesn't matter whether he intends to or not. He can't.
Well,
the law's on the books and signed.
Here's the thing. The Supreme Court's going to rule on this.
Right. And if the Supreme Court rules that the statute is constitutional, then it'll happen. Then ByteDance will have to sell.
I'm all in favor of that. Back after this, we'll hear more from Crom. after the break.
Hi folks, John Fredericks here for Freedom Alliance. Veterans are still struggling with the wounds of war. They came home with injuries that changed them forever. The flag-burning troublemakers in our streets remind me how fortunate we are to have patriots who served and fought, sacrificed, and never complained. We need to support them through organizations like the Freedom Alliance. It's Military Appreciation Month and time to support those who serve. Freedom Alliance is caring for combat veterans and military families. Combat veterans fought in the worst, most dangerous places on earth. Freedom Alliance takes them to nature's most relaxing locations so they can heal. Freedom Alliance gives injured troops mortgage-free homes, new cars, and all-terrain wheelchairs. For wounded vets, there's nothing like the stability of your own home, the reinsurance of a reliable vehicle, or the independence of a wheelchair that navigates snow, ice, beach, pasture, or most any terrain. Let's fight for those who fought for us. Go to freedomalliance.org/Godzilla and make a monthly gift that will improve the life of a military hero. That's freedomalliance.org/Godzilla. Make a contribution today.
If you're like me, most moms find it difficult to prioritize self-care. Hi, it's Colleen, Program Director at the John Fredericks Media Network. With the demands of programming 13 radio stations, it's easy to forget about the things I should do for myself daily. And that's why I started with our company's Women's Challenge with Native Path Collagen Peptides. It's affordable and convenient care in just one scoop a day. There are so many incredible health benefits like bone and joint support, metabolism booster, and hair, skin, and nail improvement. I like to take a moment each day to prioritize myself and indulge in the health-boosting benefits of Native Path Collagen Peptides. I love mixing it up with all the different smoothie recipes, too. Learn more about Native Path Collagen Peptides and read 7 important reasons why you should be taking collagen peptides at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Prioritize your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today and get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
Target.com. Target.com is an online e-commerce tire retailer. We are here to serve the American public with the best possible customer service, the best pricing, and we make it extremely easy. We have many name brands and a lot of low-cost tires. The price is right, and it's easy. You go online to Target.com, Tireget.com, Target.com. You go there, you put your zip code in, all the inventory displays right in front of you. You can call in for help if you want to. We'll help you get the tire that you need. But we will take the tires you buy and at no extra charge deliver them to the dealer right by your house where they will be installed at the market price. It's easy. The best price, the best service, great people to deal with. Thank you for going to Target.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, original All-Star panelist Carmichael Crum. You know, we're about to get a new administration, but the federal government is just infected with all sorts of leftists at very high levels. And they have a worldview that doesn't really align with our constitutional republic.
Yeah, and Michael, I don't want to confine this to just leftists. This is the nature of government. So it's very difficult, and it requires constant effort to keep government focused on serving the people rather than ruling the people.
Mm-hmm.
But
by the way, Crum,
what?
That is a very succinct and profound statement.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You can use it any time you want.
We have a recording of it.
Okay, all right. There you go.
Patrick, why don't you clip that? So we'll use it every time. Every time Crum and I disagree, you can play that.
Well, then that'll just prove me right if you think it's profound. But anyway, this is an interesting story. This guy is named Michael Barr. I'd actually never heard of Michael Barr until I read this article. He's the vice chair of supervision for the Federal Reserve, which means that he is responsible for overseeing the policies of the Federal Reserve as it deals with risk for financial institutions. And his job is to make sure that banks are not taking undue risk. That's what his job is. That's the job description. But I want to read what he said in his paragraph, what he said his regulatory priorities are when he said this to the Senate. This is after he'd been confirmed to his position or appointed and hired, but whatever. He says, and I'm going to quote here, when he outlined his regulatory priorities to the Senate in November of 2022, he called for, quote, making the financial system fairer. While safety and fairness may seem distinct, they are interwoven, he said. He stressed several potential risks to financial stability, including crypto and climate change. Now, in addition to that, he also thinks that banks ought to have a different set of criteria for their lending to make sure that underserved, in his words, underserved people have access to money. Now,
now, are underserved people with bad credit?
People who don't have good credit. I'm going to say it that way, because you might have no credit rating.
Yeah.
Okay. And in which case, it's good to be able to get a credit card with a small balance, so that you can demonstrate that you can become a credit-worthy person. But to your point, it's either somebody who has no credit rating or a bad credit rating compared to the interest rates. Because banks, by the way, do you know what percentage of the time, if a bank loans $400 in total, do you know how much they can lose on that $400 and still stay within proper norms?
$10?
No, that'd blow them out of the water. They can lose $1.
Wow.
It's 1/4 of 1%.
Wow.
1/4 of 1%. If it gets above 1/2 of 1%, that gets into the danger category. And so you see, what his job is to keep them closer to the 1/4. But this would be like a prison warden testifying before the governor or whoever this person talks to, and says, my job in the prison, especially when it comes to women, is to keep them safe. But I also must recognize that male prisoners who identify as female have every right to be in the prison with the females. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't do both things.
Those are conflicting.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying here is, this is an example in Michael Barr's case, and it's egregious because it's so important. Mm-hmm. This guy's job is not a small one. This guy's job, this would be like the prison warden that I just mentioned, having responsibility over all prisons in the country, and then all dormitories in the country, and in college campuses where they can make policy that truly puts women at risk, and so where they're forcing people who are bad into the living spaces of females. And that's what this guy's doing here. He's saying, well, climate change has a financial risk, therefore I must make banks responsible for climate change by not lending to companies that produce energy.
Crazy.
That might be one of the ways that he tries to address that. And in so doing, if all of a sudden he tried to use his position to and by the way, Biden, as one of his parting shots, is saying that energy companies should be sued for climate change.
By the way, we've got do we have that clip of Bannon talking about energy just for a moment as a point? Clip 12, do we have to play that? I just want to play this to make your point.
Sure, okay.
Here we go, Steve Bannon on the importance of energy to a productive society.
What underpins every successful industrial society is cheap, efficient, available energy. And these governments in Germany, in France, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, they're either falling or on their back foot about to fall. In the United States of America, because of the same problem. The Western nations bought into this fantasy, supposedly the smartest guys in the room, and it has had a devastating effect upon the people. It's part of the populist reaction. You've had the fiscal and financial crisis, but you've also had the cost of living. And one of the reasons the cost of living is out of control is because of all this radical concepts that were pursued by your betters. And that
okay, so this is it. This is like this guy. This guy.
This guy now.
He's better than everybody. He knows the answers.
Yeah, and this is it's incredibly dangerous because he does have authority to wreak havoc if he makes decisions that ultimately wreak havoc. It's like Barney Frank when he told the guy at Fannie Mae, and I know it was Fannie Mae, and it might have been Freddie Mac too, when that person said, if we keep making these loans without proper documentation, we're going to destroy the housing market. We're going to have a collapse of the housing market. And Barney Frank said, this is what he said, I'd rather roll the dice on helping lower income people be able to buy a home. And what Barney Frank didn't understand was that his motive of trying to help lower income people buy a home actually hurt the lower income people because he ended up putting them in a house that they couldn't afford. And then when the housing market collapsed, those people were hung with a mortgage that was $100,000 greater than the value of the home. By the way, he was on the board of New Republic Bank that also collapsed.
Yeah. So let's go to this theme of the smartest people in the room given extraordinary powers.
Yeah.
And there's an example that I want to cite here. The smartest person in the room is the 35-year-old Yale Law School graduate Lena Khan, currently the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission. She read the Federal Trade Commission Act of 1914. She read that 110 years or 105 years after it, and decided that what they really meant in that act in Section 5 was you can't have any non-compete agreements.
Right.
Now, nobody else has read that.
Right.
And she didn't talk to any of those legislators from 1914 because they're not here anymore.
So she just issued a ruling.
Out of the blue.
But by the way, there are always notes that somebody in her position could refer to. So while they aren't here anymore, there's still some record of their thinking that proves your point. Is what I'm saying.
So here's the thing on this. So out of the blue, she comes up with this rule from the FTC that would prohibit non-compete agreements. This was they came up with it in January of 23. The final rule was issued in 24. But as you pointed out to me during our break, there have been some legal challenges. And in August of this year, a federal district court in Texas set aside the rule. But the FTC has appealed that rule to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. They haven't ruled on it. I predict what will happen is when the Pam Bondi becomes Attorney General, they'll stop that appeal. Now, I'm not necessarily a big fan of non-compete agreements, but if you should have the right. How do you determine whether or not you have that right? It shouldn't be some knucklehead bureaucrat.
The key point for me on this issue is not whether or not non-compete agreements are good or bad. That's not for me to say, nor is it for any federal regulator
there you go.
Or frankly even Congress to say. Because in California, non-compete agreements don't matter much. In other words, the courts will not uphold non-compete agreements in the state of California. Now, if that's how California wants to operate, fine. I think that in California, and I'm saying this when I say the word think, I really mean think as opposed to know. I think in California that you still, if you leave a company, you still cannot take their trade secrets with them. Obviously, you can't take patents, but you can't take trade secrets. But non-competes, like so many other laws in our country, if they're going to exist, they should be, whether or not they exist should be determined at the state level, not the federal level.
I completely agree. And on that note, Crom, hopefully we're going to have a lot fewer of these smartest people in the room trying to tell everybody else what to do from the federal government in the Trump administration. Well, more when we get back. He's Crom Carmichael. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. say a few words about our friends at the Nashville Pizza Company, 2176 Hillsborough Road. The Nashville Pizza Company in Franklin reminds us that the current economic times have been tough on many families in our area, and many are finding it hard to make ends meet. Your donations of clothing or canned goods can make a difference for a family in need. During this holiday season, give from the heart so others can have a new start. That's courtesy of our friends at Nashville Pizza Company, 2176 Hillsborough Road in Franklin. They are always working to keep our community moving in a positive direction.
My fellow Americans, my good friends, I've known them for a long time, at D.T. McCall & Sons have the deal of a lifetime for you, and nobody knows deals like I do. That much I can tell you. Nobody knows deals like I do. The lumber yards, they can hit you with hidden charges for up to $200 extra. They'll charge you for cords and hoses and haul-offs. Your money goes all over the place and out of the state, and most importantly, out of your pockets. How do they get away with that? I don't know how they do that, but on day one, if you buy from McCall's, we are going to stop the hidden charges as soon as you buy it. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. Head to one of their stores today or check them out at dtmccalls.com. You're going to love it. Believe me.
Impersonator not endorsed
this
by
summer,
Donald Trump.
Never leave pets in vehicles while running errands. Even with windows cracked, 80 degrees can shoot up to 120 degrees, causing heat stroke, dehydration, and even death. So keep pets hydrated, shaded in cool areas, or just leave them at home. That's from Kathy, Candy, and the staff at Mutts Cuts Grooming, the people with warm hearts for those with cold noses. For your pet's grooming needs, call 931-645-9220. That's 931-645-9220 for Mutts Cuts Grooming in Clarksville, Tennessee at 1479 Tiny Town Road.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, all-star panelist, original all-star panelist, Carmichael Crom. Earlier today on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on the John Fredericks Radio Show, Congresswoman Victoria Spartz from Indiana was on, and she was scheduled for like a 15-minute segment. John and Victoria had such a fascinating conversation. She stayed for the full hour.
Wow.
Now, she has quite a story. She was born in what was then the Soviet Union. And when the wall fell, it became the independent country of Ukraine. And she studied in Ukraine, and when she was 22, she graduated from college there with a degree, I think, in accounting and business. In one of those crazy happenstances, she met her future husband, Jason Spartz, while they were traveling on a train for the first time from Moscow to Kyiv. And basically a romance sprung up, and he asked her to marry him, and she moved to the United States in 2000.
Okay.
When she was 22. She started, her first job was as a bank.
Was this at the end of the train ride? I mean, I'm only asking that because there's this story about this super spy in World War II who was going across the ocean.
Yeah.
And his wife is the one who made sure this book was written. And she said, we started talking at the beginning of the cruise going across the Atlantic. He proposed on the day we disembarked.
I don't think the train ride was that long.
Okay.
But it began.
Well, anyway.
It began. But it's a fascinating story.
It's a great story.
It's a great story. And so she moved here, married to her husband Jason. They moved to Indiana, where his family owns a mobile home park and some real estate. And I guess that's the kind of line of business she's in. She got a job as a bank teller. She got an accounting degree, a master's degree from Indiana University.
Oh, okay.
And had been an accountant.
All right.
And then ran for Congress as a Republican. And she still got a very, pronounced Ukrainian accent.
Okay.
And so you're going to tell us what is new and interesting and different about it. She's, I think, in her third term.
Okay. Well, she's announced that she's no longer going to caucus with the Republicans, and I don't know exactly what that means for her in terms of committee assignments. And
I'll tell you exactly what it means.
Okay, please.
She doesn't want any committee.
She doesn't want any committee assignments. Okay.
And what she said she wants to do is focus on the Department of Government Efficiency.
Okay. All right. So what she wants to do, as based on what I'm reading here and what you're telling me she has expressed to John Fredericks, she wants to focus on cutting spending.
Yes.
I mean, making government more efficient, meaning cutting spending, not adding to people to make it more efficient, but cutting spending dramatically. But here's what's interesting about the article, and then this is the Republicans in the House have a very, very small majority. My great concern, Michael, over the next few months is that somehow or another they lose the majority through special elections,
which is possible,
or a death or something which is possible, and that would throw a monkey wrench into many, many plans.
I got a little curveball here for you.
Please.
So apparently, now Donald Trump had the president-elect called me and said, Mike, I think I'm going to pick 3 Republican members of the House to serve in my administration. I would say, well, Mr. President, I understand why you want to do that. But do you realize now that you've got a 220 to 215 majority? And if those 3 are in the House, you could end up with I don't know. And if they lose all the special elections, you could lose a majority.
Right.
I would have said, I'll tell you what, Mr. President, why don't you pick somebody else?
Well,
but he chose not to. But there's a
so the risk.
No, I got to tell you the curveball.
Oh, please, okay.
There's an open appointment. The head of the Federal Emergency Management Administration.
Okay.
There is a Democrat congressman in Florida who was previously the head of emergency management in Florida.
Okay.
And who was also totally on top of the hurricane problems that happened down in Florida. President Trump is considering naming him to head the Federal Emergency Management Administration.
And we think he would take the job? He must be recently elected to Congress.
Don't know, but I'll tell you what, if I'm that guy and I'm looking at the future, and I look at the future of the Republican Party and the future of the Democrat Party, I take the gig. Well, but your point is we have a narrow
majority, and so it doesn't strike me as if this particular person is going to she will vote for the speaker, correct? I mean, for the person who will be speaker, or is she going to abstain?
No, she will vote.
She'll vote, okay.
But she didn't. She was non-committal about whether or not she'll vote for Mike Johnson.
Okay.
By the way, you ready for a curveball? Another curveball?
Okay.
It's not. Maybe it's a curved knuckleball.
Okay,
or
let
a
me
slider.
all right, please.
You can ask yours first.
My question is, if she doesn't vote, if she said, I'm not necessarily going to vote for Mike Johnson.
Correct.
She certainly isn't going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Correct.
Okay, so who would she vote for?
Well, I have a suggestion for her.
Please, okay. Is that the curveball?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a slider.
Okay.
It's a slider.
Okay, all right.
Elon Musk.
Well, but then it doesn't. Then the vote doesn't count. I mean,
I understand.
It's symbolic.
It's symbolic.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Because look, Crom, I was talking this earlier hour. Mark Andreessen, the great venture capitalist, who's a big supporter of Donald Trump now, the small tech guy, right? He says, how does Elon Musk run his 6 companies? He spends 1 day a week on each one.
Okay.
And he focuses on the key problem that company is facing each day.
Okay.
Each day he's there.
Okay.
And he solves the problem. I think he needs to add a seventh day to his week.
Okay, well,
and go to
that would
become speaker and
that would
focus
not be
on the
very
problem.
biblical. That might be a problem.
What?
He needs to rest on the seventh day. We know that.
Let me just say this. I think Elon Musk would not have a problem with the biblical requirement.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. You need to
It's a
have
joke.
your brain. Yeah, I understand. The brain needs to have some rest, but it's interesting the way and Musk, and therefore Elon Musk is able to manage. He also has great CEOs in charge of each company.
Yeah, really great.
Because if they're not, they don't stay. They don't.
Yeah.
They do
So,
not get to stay.
The most exciting and dangerous job in the world would be any job that reports directly to Elon Musk.
Well, it would be exciting, and you're right. It'd be exciting or dangerous. I don't think it'd be both. I really don't. I don't think it would be both. I think if you're highly competent in your job, it would be exhilarating and exciting. If you're not going to be there very long, so it doesn't really matter whether it's dangerous because it's not going to last very long. But here's my question, Michael. So we talk about Doge and all this other kind of stuff and how they're looking and doing whatever it is they're doing, which I'm not exactly sure how they're doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, when I say the end of the day, I'm talking about next year, after Trump, and they want to implement Doge. They want to implement their ideas. What do they do?
I can tell you exactly what they do.
Do they make recommendations on which departments should be closed entirely, which other departments should be consolidated, which regulations should be obliterated? Please.
Yeah, there's a mechanism for this.
Ah, thank you.
And this continuing resolution ends in March. Okay, so there's going to be another budget vote will happen for the rest of this fiscal year.
Right. Oh, so this continuing resolution was not to fund the government for the rest of the fiscal year.
Just to March.
Oh, so Kevin McCarthy's idea turned out not to carry the day, which when I heard him saying they need to go ahead and fund the year so that they can get back to doing business, that didn't make any sense.
Made
to
zero
me.
zip not a sense.
Okay, so now there is a.
So now what they're going to do is they'll have Roosevelt in at the OMB, and they will have the various people in the various committees in Congress, and the recommendations will be made for that budget. There'll be another continuing resolution brought up in March, and I think that one would cover till the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. I think you're going to see draconian cuts at that time, but it's not just the budget; it's the regulatory process.
Sure,
but that regulatory process, Crom, is going to happen agency by agency and in court case by court case.
Well, the agencies themselves. Let me ask you a question. I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. If an agency under Biden promulgated a regulation, and that's all that happened, it was never made a statute. They promulgated the regulation, and then that same regulatory branch under Trump repeals the regulation.
Well,
is the regulation gone?
Yeah, but there'd be a lot of repealing that would go on.
I know, but I'm saying
they would go through that whole process. The process would be they would announce the new regulation, which repealed the old regulation. They'd have a 90-day public comment period. They'd have a whole period, and then it would take
then it would go away.
Yeah, well, after it was fully promulgated is a rule.
I'm saying, but then it would go away.
We got one other thing to talk about,
all right,
and
please.
That is
the
difference between relics and the future. Now, putting aside for a moment the issue of policy perspective, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's 35, who clearly wants to be president, who is a leftist nut, but one who has a following and presents in a way that is interesting to a lot of younger people. She wanted to be the ranking member in the new Congress in the House Oversight Committee. And she ran against this relic dinosaur. His name is Gerald Connolly, who's a hardcore, terrible, nasty leftist elected from, I think, the Fairfax County, Virginia area.
Yes.
Just a hardcore bad guy.
Right.
Well, guess what? She didn't win.
Well, Nancy Pelosi intervened.
Yeah.
And Nancy
another
Pelosi,
dinosaur relic.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is the one who
she hates Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Right.
You know why?
because she doesn't bend the knee. Now, by the way, she votes the way Pelosi wants her to vote
most of the time.
Almost, yeah,
like 98%.
And in fact, if she doesn't, it's even farther left than Pelosi would like.
So here's the thing, Pelosi is 84.
Yeah,
she's in the hospital right now,
right,
with a hip replacement. Mm-hmm. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is 35. She doesn't need to be in the hospital with a hip replacement.
Right.
It basically, the left in the Democrat Party, the old people there, are not recognizing the need to change, and they're clinging to power by their fingertips. That's what that's all about.
Well, and this is an interesting, the Democrat Party. Where would you put Hakeem Jeffries in that spectrum between? And let's just call it, they're all leftists, okay? Yeah. But they come at the issues perhaps differently. Where would you put Hakeem Jeffries? Is he
he's a relic. He's a younger relic.
Okay, so he is a Pelosiite.
Yeah,
a younger Pelosiite.
Yeah, he's a Pelosiite.
Okay, well, Ocasio-Cortez was part of the squad, which is shrinking.
Right.
Because their blatant anti-Semitism.
Good point.
Is a serious problem.
They don't.
In other words, they're more honest about their leftist opinions than Pelosi wants them to be.
Good point.
Pelosi shares them. She just doesn't want to talk about it.
And that is an excellent point on which to end this segment.
You can quote me anytime, Michael.
I will. All right. When we come back, Crom, it'll be time for News Potpourri.
Carmichael, CEO of Soul Tea, a supplement to help you have a healthier heart and stronger cardiovascular system. At Soul Tea, we regularly get emails from our customers telling us how Soul Tea has helped them. Like this one from Kelly. Hello, I'm 58 years old and have had high cholesterol for years. I wanted to stay away from prescription drugs. My husband and I have been using Soul Tea for about 13 months. My results have been amazing. My cholesterol levels went from 291 to 129. I am so impressed with Soul Tea and want to thank you. Now, in my own case, my bad cholesterol dropped from 130 to 89, and that was 20 years ago. I'm 75 years old and I take 0 prescription drugs. To get a great deal on Soul Tea, please go to GodzillaHeart.com, and when you check out, use the code Godzilla to get our best deal, which is 50% off your first shipment and then 3 bottles for the price of 2 thereafter. You don't have to live with a broken heart.
Do you suffer from declining bone and joint health? Hi, it's Tina with the John Fredericks Media Network. And when I heard about our company's Women's Challenge, I jumped on the opportunity to test this amazing supplement that's already restoring my bone density, soothing my joint pain, and helping me regain lost mobility. I've experienced so many benefits in such a short time with Native Path Collagen Peptides because they support my bones and joints, boost my metabolism, and unleash the most radiant skin and hair since my 20s. In just 2 weeks, my knee stiffness is gone, and I'm already hitting the gym more aggressively. And I get so many compliments on my glowy skin and shiny hair. Native Path Collagen Peptides are so easy to take. They're tasteless, odorless, and mix great with my morning coffee. Read thousands of 5-star reviews at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Level up your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today. And get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
In 2008, the amount of concentrated time people could spend on a task without becoming distracted was 12 seconds. 5 years later, it was only 8 seconds, 1 second less than a goldfish. If you're often distracted or have trouble recalling information, you're likely to fall behind in the demanding, fast-paced 21st century. In other words, brain performance is more critical now than ever. Boost your brain power with Healthy Cells Focus Plus Recall. Science-backed nootropics to help you sharpen focus, concentrate longer, enhance recall, improve mental speed, learn rapidly, and be more alert. It's a pill-free brain supplement made with maximum absorption ingestible gel technology, designed to feed your brain at the cellular level. Take it for a test drive. Go to healthycell.com and use code GODZILLA for 20% off your first order of Focus Plus Recall. That's HealthyCell.com. Code GODZILLA for 20% off.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Well, folks, it's that time of day. Again, it's time for News Potpourri.
Yes, Michael. It's that time of the program for little tidbits that merit the attention of our audience, but not an entire segment and have a touch of
irony.
Yes. Michael, this is an interesting one. Justin Trudeau, in his rebuke, which is not going to work very well, his rebuke of President Trump, said that he is a committed feminist. I'm quoting, that make no mistake, he is a committed feminist. That Trudeau says that of himself. How do we know that's false? There's one way to know that's false. A truly committed feminist would offer to resign if they would pick a woman to replace him. That would be a truly committed feminist. It's kind of like that thing about the pig and the chicken or whatever it is, where one is committed and the other, the chicken lays eggs, the pig gets eaten.
Yeah.
So somebody who's truly committed is so we know that he's on his last legs anyway. But man, I tell you what, you're talking about a weak person. You probably talked about this, but I haven't, and I am thrilled that Carrie Lake, who I think is your good friend, and we've interviewed her, and I just think she's fantastic, that she's going to be made head of Voice of America.
Mm-hmm.
I think she is a wonderful selection for that, and I'm thrilled by it. The DNC is now trying to pick their chairman, and the front runner apparently is from Wisconsin, and as part of his campaigning to be head of the DNC, he says that we made a mistake at our convention, and that we should have featured the voices of the pro-Hamas activists as speaking at our convention. So I'm not sure that the Democrats by that have proven that they've learned much. But Michael, I'm going to say it over and over again: as long as they've got $6 billion of government employee union money, they don't have to change.
Well, I'm just going to give you two words. Really.
Please.
Whig Party.
I know you are. If they lose the money, they are the Whig Party.
Trump, Mediaite has put out a list of the most influential media people.
Yes.
And interesting enough, Steve Bannon's on that list. He's number 34.
Does not surprise me.
Citizen Free Press, which we reference all the time,
okay,
the new dredge, is 21 on that list.
That's interesting.
Jesse Waters is 13.
Okay.
Number 2, Joe Rogan. Who do you think number 1 is on media? And they're a leftist group. Who do you think they have as number 1?
In the media?
Most influential force in media.
Elon Musk.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was a
well
pure
done.
guess. That was fortunate. This is an interesting headline, Michael, and on another show we'll talk more about this. But what happened was this in the Senate: Schumer struck a deal with Republicans on these judges.
We've talked a lot about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, now
right.
the judges who Schumer promised not to replace have unretired.
Right.
They're unretiring.
Right.
My question is whether or not that's legal. I think it's a very interesting question whether or not that's legal.
I asked that same question of Phil Klein earlier today.
Oh.
And he said it's bad form, it's possibly unethical, but it is legal.
Okay. Well, that's, Republicans, I tell you what, Republicans had the football pulled away from them so many times.
Well, Mitch McConnell got the football. I mean,
I
this
know,
you could see this.
Yeah, you could see it coming a mile
away.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of bad form,
yeah,
the Secretary of Transportation, soon to be outgoing, Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
He was the mayor of South Bend.
Right, I know that.
But he looked at the political map and said, I will not get elected to a statewide office in Indiana.
That's correct.
He's moved north.
Oh, yes, he moved to Michigan.
Yeah. And, of course, now he's rumored.
He's now trying to run for governor.
Governor of Michigan.
Yeah. And that'll be, that state is purple. It's not deep blue. It's purple.
Yeah, it's purple-blue.
Well, I'm saying from time to time they elect Republican governors. So
that
would be
a while.
I know. That would be very interesting.
But, by the way, just as an aside, the Secretary of State there, Joyce Benson, wants to be governor. and she's far lefty.
Okay.
She's Democrat. She went on a listening tour, and then when the media showed up, she turned it from a listening tour into a talking tour.
Well, that was
the media is not allowed to show up at her listening tour.
I got you. That's something. This is an interesting one from BizPack Review. I'm only going to quote a paragraph here. There's this kerfluffle going on at the L.A. Times between the owner and the staff.
Yeah.
And the owner's trying to broaden his appeal of his paper by not making it so far left. But this is one where on X, Soon Jiong recently voiced surprise when former Times writer, and I'm assuming it's, I guess it'd be LA Times writer, David Haldren, contended that only 4% of journalists identify, not just in the LA, 4% of journalists identify as Republicans.
Well, that's not a surprise.
But what I'm saying is you can't fix, that industry cannot fix itself
in the way it's currently structured.
The way it's currently structured. I'm not sure. I mean, it will simply give way
to something else.
To something else.
So you're right in this, and I think the guy that bought the LA Times is in a situation where he can't solve the problem.
I think you're right.
And as is the case with Jeff Bezos at the Washington Post.
Yes, I think you're right.
They're stuck.
Yes. And to your point here, New York Times puts menstrual products in their men's room to support transgender and binary colleagues.
That's a case in point.
Speaking
of New York,
yeah,
the stupidity and leftist nature of the governor there continues. Kathy Hochul, who's from Western New York, where I'm from, has come out and said, we must abolish the Electoral College. No, we're not going to abolish the Electoral College.
First of all,
Kathy Hochul.
The Electoral College can only be abolished with a constitutional amendment.
Right.
And but they can do a lot of other damage, which you and I are very concerned about, without abolishing the Electoral College. But this is an interesting one. From the Free Beacon in Washington State. Now, the Washington State, I think you would agree, is blue.
Blue.
Yeah. A biological male has been dominating women's track in high school. And there are now groups of people who are now saying, and there's a 20-year policy in Washington State, and there's now a group of women who are saying, enough, we need to stand up for girls.
I'm all for that. All right, Crom, thanks for joining us today.
You betcha.
Up next, Rob Carson. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I hope you have a great day. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. Go to read all of our stories, TennesseeStar.com, TennesseeStar.com. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. This is Michael Patrick Leahy. I want to say a word about my good friend Dustin Damon. Dustin is the best handyman in Middle Tennessee. Call Dustin today at 724-683-4400. That's 724-683-4400 if you have a job around the house that you just haven't gotten around to. If you're busy like me, you just may not have the time to fix that broken mailbox, repair the back porch, or get that old light fixture back to working properly. Do what I did. Call Dustin Damon today at 724-683-4400, and he will bring his truck and tools to your house and get that job done lickety-split. Dustin's main service area is Williamson County and the southern part of Davidson County. So call Dustin Damon, the best handyman in Middle Tennessee today, at 724-683-4400. Tell him you heard about him on the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. The Chief Team reminds listeners here that more and more veterans will be returning home over the next few years, and many are local. These heroes have elite military training and valuable professional skills, but they also need jobs too. That's why the Chief Team is encouraging all local businesses. Let's make it the year we hire smart and hire veterans. That's from the Chief Team, where they say service isn't just a courtesy, it's a commitment. For more information, call 931-444-3572. That's 931-444-3572 for the Chief Team in Clarksville.
The Black preaching tradition is deeply connected to gospel music.
PBS presents a new series hosted by Henry Louis Gates Jr., Gospel.
Our singers preach and our preachers sing.
Gospel is a prayer. It is our heart's cry to God in lyrics and song.
Streaming now on the PBS app.